Good evening, everyone. This is Bonnie Kay, and welcome to the Books of Excellence radio show. This is a program for independent authors who are part of our book co-op at www.booksofexcellence.com. The show brings you authors from various genres who discuss their books, their writing process, and their marketing ideas. We also have other independent authors who are not members of the co-op as time allows. If you would like to call into our show to speak to our guests this evening, please get your pencils ready and jot down our call-in number. The call-in number is area code 347-308-8613. Or if you have any questions and you would rather email them to me, it's at bonkaye, B-O-N-K-A-Y-E, @AOL.com. And we're going to get started with a return guest tonight who was so delightful last time he was with us. And so much has happened since his last appearance that I invited him back because I want to find out all about it. And with us tonight from Canada and is our very special guest, Klaus Bohn. Klaus, welcome back to our show.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, very much. I appreciate this, and I'm excited about it.
Oh, we are, too, because you were such a wonderful guest last time. And I don't know if I had bought your book at the last time that we had spoken. I think I just bought it when you were on the show.
Yeah.
Your newest book, that was a children's book, which really, I mean, I love the book, but more importantly than loving it, you know, it's not about you at this moment, Klaus, it's about me. It really inspired me for my next book, the size I want it to be, because it's not the usual size that I do. But your little book called, you know, Healthy Me, I Love Fruit, I Love Vegetables, so your beautiful grandchildren on the cover. It really, like I said, was a delightful book. I love the pictures in here. But more importantly, it really did give me some good ideas on where to go for my next book as far as, you know, publishing size-wise. So I appreciate that, and it's a nice little book. And
I was just going to say it's very simple, but it's for children that are, you know, 1 year old and older that parents read to them. So my daughter said, don't make it thick and don't make it too hard, because Pippa just likes a very thin little book she can carry around.
Well, it's true, and this really is. That's why I think it really just caught my eye and inspired me. I mean, every page has beautiful pictures on there. Now, are these photographs that you took yourself?
Yes.
Or?
Yes, of course. I wouldn't put anybody else's in my book. Believe you me.
Yeah, well, they're really beautiful. I mean, there's one picture here on page 35, and to me, the reality of the picture is how real it does look. And it's the face of an elephant.
Yes.
And how close did you have to be to get that face? It looks like you were in his face to get that picture.
Well, I have a zoom, but it's not a long zoom. But I was, I don't know, maybe 20 yards away from him. Quite close.
And what I love about this book for children, you know, it really brings you to nature right up front and close and personal. But whereas a lot of children's books have drawings, these are actual photographs. And some of the things that you have in here, I mean, for instance, within this little book, you have pictures, of course, of your grandchildren and your children who are beautiful. And then, you know, you have a lot of pictures of fruits and vegetables. You know, they're big, beautiful pictures, so children can identify with them because, you know, children eat this, right? And also, you know, the picture, the colors are just beautiful, the pumpkins and apples. And then you have some nice little sayings in here, like, life is full of imagination and daydreams. May we keep our children fun with us always. And there's a picture of a cat in there, and peekaboo, I see you, and beautiful birds. You know, it's hard to stand on one foot. These are little things that children can really enjoy. So that's why it's not just like a nice little book. I mean, there's little messages in here, too. You know, it's beautiful colors. And, of course,
thank you so much.
Yes, beautiful pictures of, you know, animals, flowers, waterfalls.
Birds.
I mean, birds. A lot of things you can do with your kids as far as explaining nature to them. Was that your thought when you were doing this book?
Sorry?
Were you thinking about that when you were putting this book together?
Yes, I wanted to have it kind of imaginary. If you look how the waterfall is, it doesn't look real exactly, but it's there as an imaginary idea because probably a child hasn't seen a waterfall like that. So I photographed it with the edges are all askew, like in all my photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more imaginative. And what I really wanted to show is the food. We have to learn to eat better, and we can start from the little children, to know what is living food, what are good foods. And if we have time in this talk, I might mention a little bit what I'm doing. Anyway.
Yes, well, I think that, when you see food looking like this in your book, it's very appealing looking. Mm-hmm. And my favorite pictures of all the food, because I am definitely a food person, are the peppers. I just love those beautiful pictures of shiny red peppers and shiny yellow peppers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they look very appealing, and I think to children, when you want to try to get them on a good road to nutrition, seeing something that looks appealing is certainly, more going to have them try more.
Yeah, my kids are very conscious of eating healthy as well, and of course they're passing that on to their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, it's very important to me how we treat our bodies and what we consume in our bodies. And even the water that we drink, it should be alkaline. We need to have our body alkaline, and that's another whole hour, but we'll leave it at that.
Exactly. So let me ask you a few questions. Can you talk a little bit how you got into photography?
Well, the story is, when I went to school, we didn't have an art place, or there was no teacher there who could teach us art. But I had this magazine that came, and I would draw the pictures that they have in there that we're supposed to draw, and then you send it in, and they evaluate it, and you pay for it. But I never send it in. But I was able to do that reasonably well, and that motivated me a little bit about creativity. And then I went to Europe when I was 20 with two other friends, and they had 35-millimeter cameras, and I had Instamatic. And they really bothered me because they were forever. I was on top of the Eiffel Tower, and they said, "You stay here with the camera equipment. We have to go down and get another lens." And it was also intriguing at the same time. And when we came home, I noticed that my photographs were composed better than theirs, and I didn't know anything about composition. So I bought myself a camera right away. And then I got a job. Well, a friend of mine said, "Let's go and get a job doing weddings." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about weddings." But anyways, we went there and saw the guy, and he hired me right away. He says, I'll teach you. But he never did. That same week, he said, "There's a wedding you have to shoot." And I said, "I don't know. You haven't taught me anything yet." He said, "If you don't go, they won't have a photographer because the guy that was supposed to do it has quit." So that's how I started. I jumped right in with both feet, and then I started taking classes from traveling lecturers from the United States mainly, and they're usually week classes, and that's how I started to learn.
So prior to that time, I mean, this wasn't a burning passion you had growing up. This is something that developed later on, right?
Didn't know anything about photography at all because nobody was taking photographs in those days, especially in this small town. Nobody had cameras even. I don't think we even had anybody come and do our grad photographs. No, they didn't. They were just people that had cameras. So
I think that's a good point to make, that, a lot of times we think that this is something that has to be developed from the time of childhood, but that's not necessarily true, right?
Well, creativity is in us from childhood. I look at Pippa, and I can see her. She paints already, and she paints on rocks, and, just amazing. It's in her. Like, nobody's teaching her any of that stuff. It just instinctively. And I think the creative people have that, but they need to nourish it and let it grow. And the name of this talk show that we're doing today, that I have given it,
well, I think, I think you brought a very good point up. Your granddaughter, or is it your granddaughter who you're talking about?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, Pippa.
Your granddaughter is artistic, but don't you think that's something that's genetically passed down from you?
I'm sure. It has. My daughter, my kids are too. The two boys worked with me in the studio and so on. And the way, what I'd like to call this show is evolving with creativity. So we have creativity, but we got to evolve it. We got to make it grow like a seed in the soil. The seed doesn't have, if there's no soil or the seed is not in the soil, there's no way of growing. And if we don't have that seed in us, in our soul, in our heart, we cannot grow. Well, we won't want to. We won't even try to.
Mm-hmm. But there's so many different ways to express it, right? Because I like to always encourage people that I always felt bad, I'm not going to lie to you about this, that I have no artistic ability, or I can't even draw a circle in the line match.
But you can write. You can write.
That's right. So we all have different talents,
Well, art is art, no matter what it is. It's the same mindset, really, in a different way, but it's still the same mindset. It's evolving with creativity, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you're a writer or a painter or a sculptor or a musician. It's all basically the same as far as our soul is concerned, our heart, what's within us. The heart of art is really kinesthetic. Last time I talked about NLP, neurolinguistic programming, but the heart of art is kinesthetic. It's not visual, it's not auditory, it's from within, our feeling, our emotion, what we're made up of.
Now, were you artistic in other ways growing up? Not creative, but for instance, did you try painting or did you try drawing?
Well, I did drawing because there was no painting in our school, but I was artistic in playing basketball. I was very much into sports. And like Michael Jordan was asked, when do you throw the basket? He says, I don't know. It's instinctively. And I played basketball instinctively. We were in one town where the score was so close. My coach left me on for the whole game. I've never heard of anybody playing a whole game. And it's because I was instinctive. It wasn't that I was taller than everybody or that I was stronger or I was better dribbler. It wasn't that at all. It was how I shot the ball, how I was able to handle it without thinking. Really artistic comes, when we're artistic, it doesn't come from the mind, it comes from within us. Wayne Gretzky, I was thinking of Wayne Gretzky today. Somebody said that he didn't go where the puck was, he went where the puck was going to be. Now, that's not from the head. That's from the intuition. And
the instinctiveness, right.
Exactly. So people ask me, when do you know when to push the button on the camera? I said, I don't know, because it comes from my belly button to my hand and it misses my brain. Because if you think about it, it's already too late.
So let me ask you this question. As you said, it's more instinctiveness of knowing it or feeling it. Can this be developed in someone who doesn't have a natural-born instinct?
Well, you can to a very small degree, in my opinion. You can improve on everything and anything, but to really be creative. See, creativity, you have to have that burning passion. You have to be willing to give it all you have, even if it costs your life. When you really think about it, because I remember hearing this story about someone was in a prison camp. And they came and it was during the war, and they freed him, and he kept wanting to go back, and they couldn't understand his language. It was Polish. And so finally they let him go back, and he pulled out of the wall he took bread and sap out of the tree and made a chess set. Now, they asked him, how can you do that? People would kill you over that food. He says, I had to create. That was more important than life itself. Now, that's creativity. And most people don't have it anywhere near that. I always think it's about 2% of the people might have that. And another guy, maybe I mentioned it the last time, that his mother brought him up to a guru in the mountains, and she said, I would like you to teach him. And he took the child, he was maybe 10 years old, into the water, pushed him down, and held him down until he was almost drowning, and he pulled him up. And he said, when you want it as badly as you wanted a breath of air, you'll have it. So you see, to be creative is really, what can I say? It's demanding. It's totally demanding. I don't take my camera with me when I go for a walk, because when I have my camera, I'm working 100%. I don't want to hear anything or see anybody unless I'm doing people. And one lady one time said to me, she says, Klaus, when you were photographing those people, somebody could have shot a shotgun beside your ear and you wouldn't hear it. I'm so focused. I'm in the moment. I'm totally in the zone. And I think when you write, I'm sure you're the same way. You don't want somebody talking to you when you're writing.
Right. And I guess what it comes down to is that, you know, sometimes you can't even enjoy yourself maybe doing it because you feel like you're always working.
Well, that's, people say, well, you should take your camera so you can take pictures. I take pictures with my eyes all the time. I don't have to have my camera. When I have my camera, I am working. And I don't want people to talk to me. Even when I was photographing my granddaughter here, my kids know enough to keep out of the road and don't say anything. You know, so
let's talk a little bit about your travels this year, because that's really exciting.
Well, I went to Laos first, flew in, and a friend of mine lives there, so he took me around, and we did a lot of great things together. And then I went to Cambodia, and then I went to Vietnam. So what I'd like to do today is maybe we could look at some of the photographs, and I could talk about it. My idea is when I put this on YouTube, people could follow what we're saying on the website. So that's my intent, you know, so people can down the road go to my website and then listen to our little talk show here, so that they can follow it.
So let me ask you this: why was this your first trip over there?
I've been to Thailand and China several times, and to other places in the Middle East as well. But that's the first time. Yes, first time.
And was there something that was gearing you in that direction? Was it something you always wanted to see?
Well, I wanted to go to Nepal, and then I found out that it was kind of going by yourself. It was not that safe. And then my friend from Laos, he says, why don't you come here? So that I switched in the last minute from going to Nepal. I went to Laos, and I thought if I'm there, I might as well go to Cambodia and go to Vietnam. So that's my route, the route that I took.
So before we talk about your pictures, tell me a little bit about your feelings when you got to these countries.
Well, I loved them. I loved the people. I was not. People said to me before I went and after, "Weren't you scared? Wasn't it dangerous?" I said, "No, it wasn't dangerous at all. I don't go out at midnight in those places that would be dangerous. I wouldn't be that foolish. But what I did, where I went, and everybody was friendly to me. Everybody." And as a little girl, I have a picture of it. I decided to go way out where most tourists never go, and there was this little girl, and I was quite a ways away to begin with, and I smiled at her, and she smiled at me, and I lifted up my camera, she started crying. Put my camera down, she started smiling. Lifted up my camera, she started crying. Wonder why? She must have thought it was a gun or something.
I was going to say, maybe she thought it was a gun. Right.
Yeah, I think so. And then I got closer, and she was just a happy little girl. Everybody I met, parents, whatever, if I responded to their children, they were as nice as can be, even though we couldn't speak the language. It didn't matter. The outward impression was phenomenal. I was not scared ever. And when I treated... I went to a hotel where I stayed at this one hotel for about 4 days, and that guy was so good to me because I praised him. I said, I love your room. It was a room with a wonderful bathroom. Usually they don't have that, and a TV and a computer, so I could do my emails, everything. And so I said to him, this is great. He says, when you come again, I'll give you a better price. And you know how much it was? $14 a night. $14 a night. And it was beautiful. I could have got $10 and I could have got $5. But then you have to share rooms and the bathrooms are terrible. So I asked him, I might come for a month or two. Oh, we'd love to have you. He would just, every time he saw me come in, he'd have a cup of coffee for me.
Now, maybe you could give us a little insight on this also, because, being in the United States and not having a lot of familiarity with these Asian countries, you kind of get the impression that there's a lot of poverty, that they're not up in today's modern technology. Is that true, or has that changed a lot?
They all have cell phones, let me tell you that. So it doesn't matter. But the thing is, that is not wrong to be in poverty the way we look at them because we got so much more. They're very happy. Are we happy? A lot of people have millions and billions of dollars, and they're not happy. I know a guy came here, and we photographed their house, and they were arguing the whole time. They were not happy people at all, and they're millionaires. So these people are happy with their kids and with the little that they have, and they love when you show respect to them. And in Vietnam, especially because of the war, they want to show that they are good people. Because
Vietnam, can you get around Vietnam wherever you want to go now?
Everywhere. I went everywhere. Yeah, it's no, absolutely.
How about are people? Do you feel a sense of communism there or not?
Not at all. It's communist. Laos is communist. Cambodia isn't. But I didn't see any difference in any of the countries. At all. The feeling was no different. The people were friendly and happy. If I talked to them, they were happy because here I'm a white guy talking to them. They made them happy. They were not vengeful or thinking, "Are you American?" or whatever. That didn't matter. I don't think they even know what Canada is. So no. I didn't. And I was by myself. In most cases. So
you went to Laos. You had friends in Laos, right?
And also in Vietnam. In Vietnam, at the end of my trip, when I went to Hanoi, I had friends there too. But in between, none at all.
So, is there a big my geography is really terrible. So, is there a big distance between Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia?
No, you go from Thailand to Laos, from Laos to Cambodia, from Cambodia to Vietnam. And Vietnam is about 1,000 miles from the bottom to the top. I didn't even know it was so big. And, I went by bus, and then I went by train, and next time I would fly from place to place. But anyways, it's a long journey. It's a big place. It's amazing. I like Cambodia a lot because I liked Angkor Wat so much. But, all the countries were unique, and that's really what I was looking for.
So I'm looking at your site where you have all these pictures from your travels. And
which one are you looking at?
The one that has the blog on it from Cambodia.
Okay.
And Vietnam, Mexico. And, on this blog I sent a link to our listeners. But, it starts off with your trip to Laos. And you say that was the beginning of your adventure, and you had no lazy moments over 3 weeks. Not too much sleep and no time to rest, just go, go, go.
That's all it was go, 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 yes. Hardly any sleep. But I was good. I was still awake all the time,
Yes, and the pictures here are just beautiful. The first one you have on here says ascending or descending. Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. I happened to walk into this where there's monks, and this guy was sweeping the ground, and this dust was coming up. And the sun was coming down, was going down, and it backlit him and backlit the dust flowing up. And he doesn't look quite real. He looks like, it's from another dimension.
Yeah, it looks very surreal, this picture. Exactly.
Yeah, I that's why I wrote ascending or descending. I don't know which, because it looks almost unreal. Well, looks unreal. And I didn't embellish it, except I darkened it and I cropped it, because I wanted more of the sun to show. That's all I did. It was there in front of me, and I saw it the way you see it now.
Then the next picture you have, it's called it's about young monks. And these, the colors in this are so vibrant. Now, I don't know if they really were when you took it.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I didn't embellish that at all. What you see is what I took.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't embellish too many things. Go ahead.
When I look at the colors here and I see how, the oranges are so stunning, and if I look at the wall, you see the monks also. There's a picture of them that looks just like them in person. There's a photo, that picture that someone painted.
Yeah. It was very quiet. They didn't talk much, not very loud. They were very respectful. They didn't care that I walked right in there with my camera. But I like the composition a lot, because that man that's standing is backed by the black, what would you call it, wall. I guess it's part of the wall. And he was standing right in the right spot, and he was stationary. And if you look, you can only see 1 foot. And he was standing, he probably had another foot, but you can't see it. He's standing motionless, and they spent a lot of time being very quiet and meditative. Very respectful, very respectful. I had no problems with any of them.
And how about the next picture? It says Sister Monk.
Oh, yeah. That was a shocker to me because I didn't know there were sister monks. I had no idea about that. I didn't know. So I walked in there, and there I saw her sitting. I said, what is that? And she's a sister monk. Well, they didn't call her sister monk. They just called her a monk. But sister monks were white, and then brother monks were the color, the orange that you saw. And she was just sitting there all by herself, and then I walked up and I didn't talk to her, but she smiled at me, and I smiled at her, and, showed some warmth towards each other. And I was shocked. I'd never even heard of this before.
Mm-hmm.
So
I haven't heard of it either.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just live on handouts, right?
Yeah, basically. People give them money, too. Not just handouts, but they give them money. My motorcycle driver that I went with, he went and stopped and gave him some money.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the next beautiful picture of a waterfall.
Well, in the rainy season, you couldn't even be down there. It would be all full of water, and it would be rushing and just very noisy. But when I saw this, it's so quiet and so gentle and so trickling. It's not a hard flow. So I went and took my shoes off and put my feet in the water and just relaxed. It was very meditative.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. It was beautiful, even
it really
with
is.
very
And
little water.
It's very peaceful looking also.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was it peaceful when you were there, though?
Oh, totally peaceful. That was the most peaceful place we were at, really, by the waterfall. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Then you have your next one, and this is called April. I don't know what this one says.
Yeah,
Lighting and warmth as we look down the road in itself.
Yeah. Can I just make this comment? What I like about what I'm doing is you can enlarge the photograph.
I am. I love
it. I know, but most people don't have that.
I can get every little detail here.
Yeah.
And like when I enlarge this picture, you can't really tell unless you enlarge it. When I'm looking at these little dogs that they have.
Yeah.
You took a picture.
Tremendous depth to the whole thing, too, as well.
Now, to be honest with you, I think this is the most phenomenal picture of all of them because of the depth. Because it doesn't even look real.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like somebody painted a beautiful painting.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at this, and I can see all the way straight through this forest, or this, park, wherever it is.
Well, yeah, that's where people lived. We went down there and I photographed people, and people where normal tourists would never have gone. I'm sure some of those little kids have never seen a white guy. I'm sure of it because they really stared. This little boy, he just looked. He couldn't get his eyes off. And then there's another one. I don't know if we'll get to it, but there was these little girls coming out of grade 1 or 2. And I got the driver to stop, and I photographed them. They come running towards me, and they all had to touch my hand to see if I'm real. It's so funny.
That's funny.
And they were smiling.
You have the one called Reflection, which is beautiful.
Which one is that?
This is the one where you have the palm trees and they're reflecting in the water.
Yeah. That's where I'm there now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really beautiful. Also, the way that's shot. And the one after that, it says City Center was built because a large donation was given to the city. And when you click into that, you can see the beautiful colored flowers surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
And also the water around it. And it's like a Asian type of building. Almost Chinese looking.
So there wasn't supposed to be a building taller than that, except there's a government building that's taller than that. They kept this as a momentum of gifts that were given to them. And so it was quite interesting. I walked to the top and photographed.
Now, let me ask you this. With those water buffalo, were you really close to them, or was that from a distance?
Right. Oh, yeah, very close, very close. They didn't care about people, I guess. A lot of tourists go there or something. I don't know. They just chew their cud and they don't care.
Oh, okay, because they look dangerous.
No, they weren't at all. Yeah, they didn't. Not at all. Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Just like.
And then the next one you have here is called Happy Child.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Go ahead.
No, this picture is just amazing because I don't know. I think it really reflects poverty in this picture. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but you have a guy laying on a bench, all these clothes hanging on clotheslines. A little boy standing there with a.
He was the one that saw me and he smiled and he was running around and the father turned around and looked at me and he turned back and went back to sleep. The dog didn't care about me, but the little kid did. He was so happy when I was photographing him and being there. But poverty, depending on our definition of poverty, just because they don't have what we have does not make them poverty, because their life is very enjoyable, very healthy. You know that people in Japan live way longer than Americans or Canadians because they live a good life. It's not so stressful. It's they eat with their family. They're family orientated. They're not like we are. We shelve the old people away from us, and they have 3 generations of people living in the house. Now, no, do they have money like we do? Of course not. But that money, I don't think, is really the answer to a lifestyle that is pleasant. Like I'd like to go to Bhutan, and that's a very poverty-ish place, and I'd love to go there and even live there for a few months. People live off the off the soil. They eat what's natural, not what is produced by big companies that make all this money. And it's very unhealthy. We need to be alkaline, and all that stuff is so acidy.
Let's talk a little bit about your trip to Vietnam, because I'm looking at the Vietnam pictures.
Okay, I have to go there. All right.
Okay.
Okay. I do want to have enough time to talk about the other parts that don't have, they're not part of the trip. There's the photographic impressions and illusions. That's probably my art work. This is more documentary. But anyways, let's go to Vietnam.
Okay. So starting with Vietnam, on the top of that page, you see all these bicycles and motorbikes.
Yeah. Did you know there's about 90,000 million people, I wrote it in here, and 50 million bikes.
That's amazing, right?
I drove a motorbike in Laos twice, I did. But you know how it works? People say, oh, how can you possibly drive there? You have to know the rules. If your tire is 1/4 of an inch ahead of the other guy, you go first. To walk across the street, there's no crosswalks. You just in between them. If you're in front of them, they'll stop. If they're just about in front of you, then you have to stop. So there's a rule. There's rules to the road. But we wouldn't do it here. We would say, oh, that's crazy. But we don't them. That's the problem. We don't understand their lifestyle, and we criticize it, and we shouldn't. We should appreciate it.
Well, here, the next picture is really beautiful.
Which one?
The one of the cave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got a lot of photographs from that cave. Yeah, it's huge. It took us an hour to go through it all and photograph it. Of course, Yeah, it's monumental.
Just beautiful. And then you have the picture of the lovely lady. And this is an older woman sitting there smiling for you.
Oh, yeah, she was so happy. I would photograph her. Whoa, she was happy. She was trying to give me a Canadian-American look with a smile. They don't smile for photographs.
That's so funny. And then there's 5 faces. This is so interesting. These are, I guess, statues. It says there are many faces on walls and statues. What a look. Each face is an individual.
Yeah.
That was interesting, right?
Yeah. When I was in China and photographed all those soldiers that were unearthed recently, maybe 10, 15 years ago, the terracotta warriors, every face is different. When they sculptured thousands of faces, they must have used people's faces because they're all different. And that's the same thing here.
Very interesting looking, sculpturing there.
Yeah.
And now I moved a little further down because my very favorite picture of all of your pictures is the one called Working Hands.
Oh, yeah,
It just left a really big impression on my thinking that day when I looked at this. And it was hard for me to forget the imagery of these two old hands, showing every line and wrinkle, and realizing that, people just have to keep working. And I guess that's just a way of life for that country.
Well, but that's healthy because they live through old age because they're working. They're not sitting at home watching TV. They're doing something with their body. So that I don't see that as a bad thing.
No.
The only thing that I don't like is those poor ladies have to do rice paddies, and when they get really old, they walk totally bent over, and that I feel sorry for.
Right, because you were showing that planting rice, above you have that imagery.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of work in the fields.
All day long.
And here you have your climb, 426 steps to the top.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know. There was no railing, no hand railings, nothing like here. Like they would never do that. We would have hand railing and everything else. And there was nothing. You might be able to grab a branch every once in a while. And the steps were not even or anything. So it's 426 steps up and 426 steps down. And down is just almost as bad as going up, except it takes less effort. Yeah, I didn't even think it was going to go up there, but everybody, a lot of people were. Some people were smart enough and they didn't. I took photographs from up there.
So tell us about what you were going to that you were interested in discussing with us, with your imagery.
Okay, what I want to talk to you about is the like in NLP, we have the visual, the kinesthetic, and of course the auditory. And how do we read a photograph? Some people will look at a photograph and just see the obvious. You see what's in front of their eyes. They don't see into it. So to me, if you would like to go to the photographic illusions, and the second picture is that little girl running, and I want to just describe the composition of this. My one book, it says 50 Principles of Composition, and of course Paul, when he heard that I had a little pamphlet of it, he said the most he ever saw in Google was 7. So he was very interested to publish that, and of course that one has been selling ever since it started. And if you look at this photograph, there's a few things that really make a difference to an image. Normally, with trees, you'd photograph it vertically because you'd want to see the trees on top. But when I was doing this, of course, he was running towards me, and everybody would take that photograph. But I thought that is pretty traditional. So when she started running away from me, it became what I wanted. Instead of going vertical, I went horizontal, because you get a feeling that you're running behind her, following her, and she doesn't even know it. So it has that feeling in the photograph. Also, because we learn to read from left to right, you'll notice the wet green grass and the chips all the way, takes you all the way past her, right into the future, right into the far, far trees in the background. So it gives you tremendous depth. The other thing that we don't usually have in a photograph is there's no sound, or there is no motion. Here's motion. Her left foot is up, her right hand is a little blurry in her hair. She's moving. You can feel it. She's enjoying it. Her eyes, she's looking down, and she's going. There's nobody there to interfere. I like to photograph places where there are not very many people. And she's just moving. And so the composition is very important, from left to right, where we place the subject matter that is the strongest. All those things are in my book. But what I like about this photograph is the rhythm, because of how she's standing there, like captured, called the decisive moment. People wanted to know when should have pushed the buttons. Well, that's the decisive moment. You have to do it instinctively. And so there's rhythm, there's movement, there's emotion, there's feelings. We need to read the photograph, the flow of it. That's artistic. Like when you read a book, like what you write, and let's say it's a love story, and the man says, "I love the first time I've ever saw you," and blah blah whatever. It's not the words; it's the emotion. It's in between the lines. That's what I try to capture in my work. It's in between the lines. It's not the lines themselves. So you could read those words and could mean nothing to you if you don't read between the lines and have that emotion. I was in Pakistan and I looked at some books that are Urdu. Well, I didn't understand a word. I couldn't read it at all. It goes from the back to the front and from down and up, and it's like chicken scratches, So I couldn't read that. A lot of people can't read a photograph, or they don't know how to read well enough to get the sense out of a book. That's don't have that emotion involved in a sentence or in a photograph. Like, there's so much I can see in this photograph that people miss. I had a guy the other day I met at bowling. Lawn bowling. I had never done that before, and when he found out I was a photographer, he was very interested in looking at my website. So he emailed me back, "Oh, nice." He said, "But you should go to Google and look at these photographs." I never did, but I emailed him back, and I started to explain a little bit about my emotions, and I said, what you need to do is go to Legacy and Illusions and listen to me. Well, he emailed me back. He says, "Whoa, now I understand where you're coming from." And then I said that I did this talk show a while back, and you should go and listen to that. And then he wrote back, and he says, "I am impressed." He said, "You are great." So I thought that was nice. I have to say this, on the radio talk show.
Well, so, you are.
So it's just, that when people understand it, that's why I do consultations when I do a city, so people understand me, because if I can do what I'm impressed with and they have the education, they'll appreciate it immensely. Because most people, when you ask them what do they want something that they've already seen by somebody else has done. One lady says to me, "I want something different." I says, "Great, I'll photograph you from the back." Well, she says, "I don't want that." I says, "See, you want something that you've seen before. I'm going to do something that you've never seen before. I'll photograph you." And I try to photograph it in very unique ways, in my portraits, if you get a chance. On my Redbubble, I have lots of portraits there that I've done, because I sell my work through the 6 websites, affiliated websites.
I just love the peacock picture. That, to me...
Yes, I knew you did. I knew that was great. Thank you.
I thought that was magnificent. I mean, I've never seen really the details done like this. I've seen peacocks in several past times, but looking at this picture, and I know that this is a photograph, although it could have looked like a painting, to be honest with you, if I didn't know you. Yeah. And I would think, oh, somebody did this beautiful painting. It's just so real that it's hard to believe that it's even a picture. That these, colors came out so vibrantly.
I've tried to photograph, these birds for a long time, and I just couldn't get one that I was happy with, these peacocks. But the next one down there,
I see 30, that beautiful.
I love that one.
The mating season.
Yeah, and so my timing was right to be there. Look at the peacock. He's very proud and has his tremendous feathers fanned out, and she's looking at him. She's flirting with him. The hen is almost enveloped in his what are they? In his feathers. She's looking at him, and she's teasing him and flirting with him, and he's showing off.
Yes, in fact, have you ever tried to enter these into any contests?
Well, to get my craftsman and my fellowship, you can only get your masters is if we win with photographs. I got hundreds of awards, but the thing is, to get my masters, I had to win so many shows. And so I got my master's in 78 or something. And then I got 5 gold bars. So then, every time you win, you get a gold bar. But initially, before that, your craftsman, you have to do also work and take close classes. You have to take classes to be awarded that. Oh, yeah, I've judged nationally, and that was quite interesting, too, because I'm quite outspoken. And the guy that always asked me to, whenever he was managing that, he always asked me to be in. And I said, "Why are you always asking me?" He says, "Because when you're in here judging, there's usually 5 of us, you're very controversial, and the room is full when you're judging."
That's
so I
good.
think nationally and provincially. And
it's challenging, but I mean, I know he's won a lot of awards, but there's something about this one picture with the peacocks mate, the mating one, that for some reason I just feel like this is so unique, so different. That it's definitely, someplace you have to go and be acknowledged for that one. I mean, all your pictures are beautiful. In fact, I just got a note from our Books of Excellence, friend Fred Martin Del Campo, who just sent me a note because he's a big fan of yours, and he said a picture that he loves the best is the one of China.
Well, yeah.
And you have that a little further down, where you have the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
And he said that really brings back some memories for him. He used to be in China.
I walked a long wall into the old wall, which you're really not supposed to, 4.5 hours going straight up. I'll tell you, it was something. So, yeah. The reason I don't compete anymore is because I don't need to. I've done it for 20, 30 years, so I don't feel an urge.
No, I understand, and normally I would not even suggest it, but that one picture is just so amazing that it should be up in every store in America or something.
I think everybody should buy it. Then it would make
sense. But how are they going to see it? I mean, I think if you entered in a contest, you have a much better chance.
But only the people in this town. I had just an art show here the other day, almost a month ago, and it's only a few people from this city, or not few, but not very many. I want global. That's why I have 6 different affiliate websites. That's why Redbubble is in 50 different countries, and I had 60,000 people have looked at it. That's where I have to have it, so I can sell it. I mean, I sold some in my show, but it cost me more to put the show together than what I made. Where when I sell it on Redbubble or ImageKind or American Art or whatever, that cost me nothing to have my photographs on there. And then when somebody buys, they take their percentage, and I get my percentage. So it cost me nothing, where here it cost me a lot to have the show. And then they take a percentage, and you have to pay, Like, I'm not going to do that again. I've done a lot of shows, and they've never, ever made me any money, ever.
Yeah, I think that's where there's a lot of starving artists around. That's
why they think that's going to help. It's not. You have to go. It's global marketing nowadays, and I have a whole section here I'd like to talk to you about marketing.
Yeah, please do.
We don't have time. We've got 10 minutes. It'll take me 10 hours. But you'll have to fly me out there and get a group that will be wanting to learn what I have to offer and then just cover my costs. And I'd love to be there because I'd love to photograph. I've never been into your state. But anyways, that's down the road. Maybe some other day we can really zero in. There was stuff here I wanted to cover, but that's okay. We don't need to cover everything.
Tell me some more stuff you'd like to cover.
Okay, I'd like to cover this. It's about our, I mention this so often, and I feel so strongly, feeling more deeply about photography, feeling more deeply about anything that you're doing. And when Frank Sinatra said, "Doing it my way," that song, you remember that? That's what I want to do. That's what I try to teach people, how I see it, not how everybody else. I don't even look at photography, the photographers anymore and what they're doing, because they just pull me down. And I'm in my own little world. I'm in my universal mind world. I'm in my alpha level, which I really wanted to get into, but we don't have time for that. And then also Van Gogh, he was a drug addict. And so what he produced, what they didn't accept in those days. Today somebody marketed it and brought it up in a big high price, but it wasn't real. Like, it wasn't, because he was elusive. He was on drugs. And so what did the Beatles do? They sang Yellow Submarine, which they were supposed to have been on the drugs too. It's not that it's bad. It's just the where it comes from. For me, it should come from the alpha level, the universal mind. The alpha level is what we can tap into. Our conscious mind tells us subconscious mind what it wants. Now, if it says it negatively or positively, it'll get it from our mind. When we're asleep, it just brings it to the consciousness of our alpha level, which is very creative. So I'll quickly say this. I taught my mom about that, and one day she was up washing her balcony, and she had to pail on the corner, and it said to her, "It's going to fall." She says, "It's not going to fall." Walked away, fell over. She says, "Klaus, quit telling me these things." And the other day, I put my keys on the tire of the car, and I thought, oh, it just came to me, it's going to fall off. And I thought, oh, no, it won't. Sure enough, it did. Then I went to see Mom in the hospital, and I thought, my goodness, I don't want to spend 2.5 hours there. And there's only a few parking meters where you can put coins in. The rest you have to take 2.5 hours. So I programmed when I left here that I'll get a parking spot out of the 5, and there'll be money in the meter. Guess what? I got there was one available, and there was money in the picture. So that's what I call the universal mind, that we can tap into that which boggles the mind. We can't comprehend it, but if we experience it, we'll keep doing it. Whenever I go somewhere, I always expect something great. And even on my trip, I didn't go there as a fearful person and thinking, oh, well, nothing's going to happen, it's not going to be great. That's a negative. And if we are scared that way, our subconscious mind will give it. Our subconscious mind does not know the difference between right and wrong, good or bad. It just does. It just does whatever you say. So if I say, oh, I'm going to get hurt, well, you probably will get hurt down the road, or whatever it is. Or you say, I'm going to enjoy my time, even on talking radio here with Bonnie, and I'll be happy, and I am happy.
And so I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there's so much more that I could go into. Gainsborough, I guess we have 2 more minutes. And when I was in Germany with the family, we went to Germany, the biggest art gallery in Berlin, and I was looking at Gainsborough's huge paintings, like, I don't know, 5 feet, 10 feet tall, and I just was looking, and the guy came along, and I wanted to know why he did that. This guy came along, the curator came along, he said, you know what you're looking at? Can you imagine thousands of people, he picked at me because I wanted to know. That's why the universal mind gave it to me. And he said, you know what you see, what you're looking at, what you see? I said, no, tell me. He said, well, he wanted to paint scenery, but people didn't buy it. So he went to the rich people that owned castles, big walls, so they would hire him to paint their families. And he made huge paintings because he wanted to photograph environment. And then he put the family in it. That's how he was able to sell his work. Now, there's always a way. No matter what, there's always a way of whatever we want to do. If we try hard enough, the alpha level, as I told you before, last time I think, that just before we fall asleep, just when we wake up, that's when we get the information. The universal mind gives us our imagination, what we want to fulfill. What the artistic part is really that comes from there. You know, people say, well, just think outside the box. Well, you're going to be in the bigger box. You're always going to be in the bigger box. You'll never get outside the box unless you do the uplook to the universal mind, and it will give to you what you desire if you are believing. If you're believing, you can accept that, can be able to accomplish that. A friend of mine, when I told him about programming for parking lots, he just went crazy. He said, you're crazy. So he said, but I'll try. He says, because the bank where I go to, there's hardly any places. I never get a parking spot. So I saw him that time, and he didn't say anything. I saw him the time after that. I said, tell me about the parking lot. He said, it didn't work. I got 2 parking spots. And he was programming so hard, he ended up with 2. So it doesn't work all the time. It works maybe 60% of the time, but I believe in it, and times it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's like even health. You know, I'm an 80-20. 80% of my foods are raw. I have juicing every day, twice a day. I do smoothies every day. I eat raw foods. And it's a no-brainer. I like it, and I do it, and I'm getting in great shape. At my age, I'm in pretty good shape, and it's because I want to. I want to be able to be healthy. I don't want to go and be old and decrepit and arthritic and whatever. That's not my choice. So what do? I program my mind that I'm going to be healthy. So do we have enough? Let's go to illusions. Can we pop up there?
Before we do that, I just want to make a comment to you.
Oh, sure.
That I don't mean to embarrass you in any way, but I do want to talk a little bit about, your generosity. That after our last show, and I was so impressed with you, and I have an adopted niece, Trish, and I was telling her how impressed I was with your pictures, and she's been just feeling about photography.
Yes.
And, you know, it's a matter that she really was interested in it, and she's been taking some pictures. And I told her about you. I gave her your website. And,
yeah, she sent me stuff.
Yeah, and you were just so generous, you know, in responding to her and giving her good advice and some good tips. So, you know, I just wanted to thank you so much.
Oh.
Because a lot of people will just say, well, I'm too busy. But, you know, you take the time and you really care about people who are, you know, interested in this, and she's a total stranger to you. But yet, you know, once again, you really gave up your time. So I thank you so much for that.
Well, we won't go to this next one then. I just want to say on her behalf as well that I'm very, I enjoy doing that. But people have to remember, they have never taken my course, I'll never, ever comment on their photograph in a negative way. It'll always be positive because I don't know where they're coming from. If they've taken my course, I will tell them what they could do better. But if they have never taken my course, I'll never say anything negative ever. It'll always be a positive. And her work is great.
You gave her a lot of encouragement.
Well,
and I really
her work was great. I really enjoyed her work. It was very good. I'm saying that from the heart. No, it was great. You know, she's good. I hope, and she said she's going to bought the Legacy and Illusions, and I hope she send me some more photographs. I hope she's listening to this and she can respond to me again. That would be wonderful.
And I'm looking on the Illusions, and I see here the poster.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a different kind of photography?
Yeah, this to me, illusions, I'm doing a lot of illusion photographs because it's more artsy, in my opinion. It's not documentary. And I was in Cambodia on top of a big old tour where you can go way up to photograph the sunset at top of this place, and it was getting boring, so I started playing around and produced this, and because the sunset was not that great, but while I was waiting, I was bored, so I produced this. To me, this is an illusion. It's not a reality, but it's created by me, so it's an artistic flavor to it. So why does a photograph have to be a document? It doesn't have to. So if you look at these photographs, you'll see, like even the one with the sand dunes. You know, look at the color. The sky is totally a wrong color if you think of it. The sand dunes were white, and yet I have the person in there to show how big the sand dunes are because I changed it to my own taste. And then if you go down color roots, well, yeah, there were roots, but I added color and flavor and like an artist would paint maybe. And if you go down to the last one, Illusionist, click on it, look at it. It's in my imagination is filled in with the end result of this photograph. It's actually a photograph, but it looks
like a painting, very much like a painting. And I mean, if somebody would show me this, I would say there's no way that's a photograph. So I can bring my photographs into another realm, in another place. Anyways, and I think it's just fascinating. And once again, that's on the blog site also under Illusions, and you can see
everything's
beautiful
on the blog
pictures.
Site. Yeah. That's why I put everything under blog. And I'm going to be adding more unique photographs and adding to that blog, different blogs. Like I'm going to keep adding to different ideas that I have. And trying to express them through my art, through my photography.
Do you have any
my writing, too.
Do you have any trips planned for the future?
I was in Mexico just before I went to this other place, Laos. So I don't know. Maybe in the fall I might go to India. I've been invited by family from Dhaka to meet me in India, and they'll take me to Goa. Goa is supposed to be one of the nicest places on earth.
Wow.
So I said, yeah. So I said, what about January? I said, great, I'll go.
Well, Klaus, I just want to let people know for them to buy any of your, beautiful photographs. They can do that on your website, right?
Yeah. There's 6 different websites. Yeah.
Right. And also, you can find your books on Amazon.com.
Or you can see him here on my website, too.
On the website or through the CCB Publishing that we all publish from.
Yeah.
So you can find his work or write to me at bonk@aol.com, and I'll be happy to send you the links to all of this. So unfortunately, our hour's up again. Didn't that go fast?
Yeah, and I didn't even get through half the stuff I was preparing.
Oh, well, that's all right,
Klaus.
Oh,
my goodness.
That just means that we have to have you back again.
Anytime.
That's all right. I'll just keep having you back as long as you can spare your time. So we're going to say goodnight to our listeners, and Klaus, I'm hoping will be back with us again by the summer.
Okay.
And we'll be happy to talk to you again, and everyone have a wonderful week, and we'll be again back here soon. Thanks, Klaus.
Thank you very much, Bonnie.
All right, thank you, and bye-bye, readers.
Thanks to everybody.
Listeners.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.